Welcome to Football Letter Live. This week we welcome Letterman Chima Okoli and spotlight the Central Ohio chapter. You'll see coverage from homecoming weekend in Happy Valley, and we'll let all Penn Staters know how they can be involved with the Alumni Association and cheer on our Nittany Lions this fall. Football Letter Live is member supported, and we're so grateful for your support. If you're a Penn Stater, you belong in the Alumni Association. And if you love Penn State, you're in the right place. This is Football Letter Live. Welcome into Football Letter Live. I'm your host, Paul Clifford. Welcome. I'm joined, as always, by John Petishnock. John, how are you this evening?
I just saw Sue Paterno sing and dance to Sweet Caroline, so I'm doing pretty good. How about you, Paul?
I'm doing wonderful. Great video. We'll get to talk to that in just a couple minutes, but Chima Okoli is here. We're going to talk to him in the second half of the show. Cindy Dell and Bob Remy from the Central Ohio chapter are with us tonight as we get ready to go out to Columbus. We got videos from the homecoming parade, from the Blue Band. Whatever highlights we're able to find from the Illinois game, we're going to show those. But it is, it's good to get together with Penn Staters, right? A little disappointing on the field during homecoming, but a lot of great things to talk about tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talked about this last week with Randy and Keith from the Alumni Blue Band. Seeing them perform Friday on the Alumni Center lawn was awesome. We're seeing here some shots from the homecoming parade. We've been live streaming this now for the last 4, 5, 6 years. It's starting to become one of my favorite traditions. There you can see our president, Kelly Lynch, and on our vice president. And you'll see a couple of chapters come up here. This is total coincidence. We have the Hazleton chapter and the Hazleton Alumni Society. Total coincidence. We've got the Alumni Blue Band there in the parade. But yeah, look, it's, and then we had, Guard the Line Shrine afterwards, which is, where you saw Sue Paterno enjoying herself, where that was right after she tells the story about how Guard the Line Shrine got started. And, she welcomes alumni, and, every time she talks, everybody else just stops and, they listen. And, when Sue Paterno talks, it carries a lot of weight. But yeah, I mean, look, we don't have to gloss over what happened on the field. Like, that defense is playing at or near a national championship level.
Right.
And I think, the offense is going to find its footing. And so, I wrote this week, it's, not every team can legitimately say that they're just 1 or 2 breaks away from contending for a playoff spot. Like, Penn State is one of those teams. And so, but other than that result, certainly, a good weekend in Happy Valley, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely. It's always good when you get together with Penn Staters. Vince, if you could find that footage of Sue Paterno dancing, I'm sure our audience would love to see that. We are doing call outs so alumni can share their Penn State connections. This week, we're asking you to share photos of you wearing your Penn State gear, whether it's at the game or at home or traveling across country. Share the gear that you wear when you're cheering on the Nittany Lions. And we'll share those photos on the next episode. A little bit later, we're going to finally get to the pictures of your pets. I think we're still trying to get the pictures of the pets. We forgot that last week. If you share a comment or share this stream, that automatically enters you into one of the Football Letter Live prize packs. So one could be coming to your home soon if you leave a comment for us or share this stream with others on YouTube or on Facebook. Michelle Bazzelli, hello. I hope you are watching. You have a prize pack coming to you very soon. Thank you for watching Football Letter Live. Just saw the highlights before, John. So first of all, great video coverage. The fumble there, which was a key play in the game. You were able to get. We had Keith Griffith on here last week. You got the flip, his first flip in Beaver Stadium, and so great coverage of the game last week.
No, I appreciate that, Paul. That means a lot. And again, like we just talked about this week, we're just continuing, the original mission of the Football Letter. Now, we want to bring you what it's like game day at Beaver Stadium. And, a big part of game day is the Blue Band. And when it's homecoming weekend, it's the Alumni Blue Band. And, we got to have Keith on the program again and just ask him what that moment was like, doing the flip on Beaver Stadium. When you think about how long he had to wait, here you see the Alumni Blue Band and the Blue Band playing on the field after the game. And this is kind of I don't know if this is like inside baseball, but they have moved James Franklin's post-game press conferences this year to on the field. Right. So you've got all the media writers and videographers standing there with their, trying to get this really great audio quality, and everybody has to wait for the Alumni Blue Band and Blue Band to stop. And they've been doing this a long time. They get precedence on the field. And so, Coach Franklin does his post game with athletics and then comes on the field, but it's sort of the the Blue Band post game now has, an audience of, 50, 60 media writers. But it's just a really good weekend. As you said, there are people who wait all year, who plan all year to come home for homecoming. And hey, look, we all witnessed college football history, 9 overtimes, result aside. That was, if you'd have told me going into the game, we we're going to see 9 overtimes, I probably would not have taken you seriously, but that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you see again, Sue Paterno having fun at Guard the Lion Shrine. A lot of great events went on during homecoming weekend. You saw footage from the parade. You saw the Alumni Blue Band back. Sue Paterno, in what has become an annual celebration of her vandalism of the Lion Shrine. So it's how traditions grow at universities. It's a wonderful story, and each year she comes to campus to share that with just a new generation of students. Another great tradition at Penn State, tailgating. And we were able to get out to the tailgate lots and talk with Sue and Ed Wilson. Fans might know Sue Wilson from Team Entry. She always makes these, shall we say, unique signs that appear on the path, and James Franklin always finds her and seeks her out. But John, we were able to talk to her at her tailgate prior to the game.
Yeah, that was fun. I think.
Hey, Penn Staters, I'm Paul Clifford, CEO of the Penn State Alumni Association, and we are out here in the tailgate lots at the Wilson's Tailgate with superfans Ed and Sue Wilson. It is raining here in Happy Valley, but the spirits here at this tailgate are not dampened, right?
We don't know.
Sue. Yes, exactly. Sue, we're standing here in front of one of your banners. You've become famous on Team Entry, right? The team always walks by your banners. Franklin makes it a point of stopping by and saying hello. What's the origin story around the banners?
A lot of them come from the game buttons. So people might say, well, why does it say something about noise? I said, well, look at all the game buttons, because I've collected them since 1972. So my menu, my signs frequently use those slogans. But I also have this fancy machine that can embroider just about anything, and I have to use it because we paid a lot of money for it. Otherwise, it gets really mad. But I, just get crazy and have fun with it. And we always win homecoming. I mean, there's just been, I think, 2 homecomings we didn't win going back historically. So this one was a no-brainer. Homecoming, we win.
That's amazing. So you've been tailgating in this spot for a while. You just showed us the pictures, right? Tailgating and Penn State football has been a family affair for you all, right? Not just immediate family, but the folks all down the way here that have become friends. Talk a little bit about what Saturdays during the fall mean to the two of you.
Go ahead.
This group of 6 families. Now, sometimes someone changes out, someone has died, or someone has retired down to Florida, but there has been a steadfast group with the Hennings and us and, in between, and we've been tailgating since the 70s together. And originally this was just dirt roads and grass, and we would just pull some things out of the back of our car. It wasn't fancy like this. We didn't have the big tents and all the fancy menus and things. But it was the most important 7 days of the year to me, and then add in the blue-white game because we always come to that. My kids grew up here, toddlers, and then they would bring friends from school out in Ohio. And then they were here as students, and of course they would bring friends. We have always invited our Penn State chapter of Greater Cleveland and Akron Canton. When we go to the freshman send-off, we say, here's your tailgate. Bring your friends, bring your roommates, bring your family. Your mom and dad can meet you there. If you have something you want us to take up to you, you can get it at the tailgate. We'll bring it in our car. So we started getting these large groups. I think the largest groups, there were 2 times. One kid put up a sign in his dorm over here in East, and it said, big tailgate, all you can eat, really nice people, and come here. And I said, geez, is that David coming with all the it looks like he's got his whole dormitory. Well, his mom and dad were mortified that he did that, so they would bring food over to our house in Ohio. The other time was the entire swim team, and they came with whoever they were swimming against because the Hennings had a son on the swim team. That's amazing. So.
That's amazing. This is like every conversation with the Wilsons. Sue gets a lot of words, and Ed barely struggles to get into the conversation. So I'm going to let you close us out here, Ed. Homecoming, we always win. What's your prediction for the homecoming game today?
Rain. No, I expect to win today, candidly, Paul, but it is whatever it is. Actually, I enjoy the tailgating more than the football game. The football game is
I'm the football fan.
Yeah, the football game is an excuse to do this and have fun with friends and family and acquaintances, fraternities, students, SMEAL, the College of SMEAL. And the other thing is, I pay for it.
And volunteers me for things like the contests or whatever.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for joining us on Football Letter Live. It's always good to talk to you. And thank you all for joining us here on Football Letter Live. The weather, not ideal, but the spirits out here at the tailgate lots have not been dampened. We are
Penn State.
Always good to get out into the tailgate lots. When we say we never lose on homecoming, John, we're obviously talking about how we're undefeated at tailgating.
Yeah, nobody ever loses at tailgating, and so we'll get them next year.
Yeah, great audience tuning in. I see Kevin Lashane from the Aiken Augusta chapter, Russ Mitchell, Pat Nicolano. Hey, Katie Dunn, good to see you. Sue Wilson, we saw Sue drop a comment here. Sue is a Clevelander. And she says, OHNO. I hope so, Sue. I hope we can come out there and shock the world. We have Joe Cunningham. I'm just going to start calling him Joe Cunningham. It's actually my dad. Shout out to my dad. I hope you're feeling better. Joe Clifford there in Cunningham. But great to talk to Ed and Sue Wilson. And we have another group of Ohioans in the green room waiting to come on and talk to us. Of course, that's Cindy Dell and Bob Remy from the Central Ohio chapter. Cindy is class of 79. She's the president of the chapter. Bob, class of 78, and former president and former scholarship chair, and just the force of nature behind the Central Ohio chapter. Let's welcome them both in to Football Letter Live. Cindy and Bob, how are you this evening?
Fine, thank you.
Great.
It's the calm before the storm. Are you ready for Penn Staters to converge on Columbus and hopefully cheer our Nittany Lions on to victory?
Of course. Something we look forward to all year.
Absolutely. We saw the spirit.
Absolutely. Well, we enjoy hearing kind of the backstories of how people became Penn Staters. And Cindy, I'm hoping that you and Bob would share your story. Cindy, first with you. How did you become a Nittany Lion?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and there was a campus. There was a branch campus in Altoona. And so actually my dad went to that campus when it was first getting started. It was called Ivyside campus at the time.
Right.
And I was paying my way through school, so Altoona campus was the perfect option for me. And my family has always loved Penn State, but I was the first one to graduate from Penn State. And then I had two siblings after that and two of my nephews. And I'm just hoping that I can talk my granddaughter who lives here in Columbus. I'm hoping I can talk her into attending Penn State.
I graduated in 78. My first 2 years of college, I went to a community college in Pittsburgh and went up to Penn State one weekend and just kind of fell in love with it and said to myself, this is where I want to be. And that's how I became a Penn Stater. I really got Penn State involved when I first moved to Columbus. It was like something that I didn't have here, Penn State. And that's how I became involved in the chapter. So it's been a good ride. You're always Penn State proud.
No, it's great to hear. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing those stories. We appreciate it. So this weekend, big weekend. Can you just share a little bit like what you have planned for this weekend and kind of how you'll be spending the days leading up to the game?
Yeah, well, we have a big event coming up tomorrow night. We have the Alumni Mixer Pep Rally, and that takes place at the Quaker Steak and Lube here in the Polaris area in Columbus. And that is also a fundraiser for our scholarship fund. So we look forward to that every other year when Penn State plays here. It's a lot of people seem to come to the event every time we play here. So it's a lot of fun. I keep getting messages from people saying how much they look forward to that event. So the Nittany Lion will be here with the cheer team and the Lionettes and the pep band and all of you, which we're looking forward to seeing face to face. And we're just so excited.
Yeah.
So
it's great to hear Hail to the Lion in the middle of Central Ohio. We have it at Quaker Steak and Lube, which is a Pennsylvania company. And the other side is they're serving the general public, and they are like in shock. What is this, invading our territory here? Those people fail to remember that Pennsylvania is the state out east.
Right.
They like this up north thing with Michigan. We're the state out east. In fact, we're a little bit closer than Ann Arbor. So, it's great. I love to see them, kind of be in shock that, we root for our school. We're loyal to our university. And that's what we try to promote with the Central Ohio chapter. We're on an island out here in Buckeye Land.
Right.
And, that's one of the things we try to promote.
It's always a scene when we roll into Quaker Steak and Lube. One of the larger Quaker Steak and Lubes that I have ever been in. I didn't even realize there was another side, Bob, because when we come in, it's all Penn Staters. It's all Penn Staters everywhere.
Yeah.
And it does send a message, right? It does send a message that whether we're playing here in Beaver Stadium in front of 107,000 family members or going on the road, that Penn Staters are loyal and bold and supporting their Nittany Lions. You get to live in a Big Ten city, right, with a lot of Penn Staters represented there in the Columbus area. What does it mean when Penn State comes to the area to compete against the Buckeyes? Not just in football, but there have been epic wrestling matches, volleyball, soccer travels there every year. What is it like to have the Nittany Lions come to town?
It's a source of pride. I mean, that's our school, that's our team there, and we try to attend their events to make sure we have their backs. And the nice thing about it, I recall a few years ago, we went to a Penn State baseball game. It was a doubleheader, and between innings, some of our young children of alums went down to the area around the bullpen, and those ball players stopped and took time out to sign autographs and talk to everybody. And that's what impresses me about our student athletes. It's been done at volleyball games where they'll come out and talk to you afterwards. They're great ambassadors for our university. And that's what we try to do here, be ambassadors for Penn State. You'll never catch me rooting for Ohio State. When I first moved here 31 years ago, they tried to convert me, but it's never happened. They tried to convert me to being a Cleveland Browns fan. That's never going to happen. So this guy and this woman next to me will always be true Penn Staters. So
absolutely.
Well, Bob, living in Ohio for 3+ decades, you've seen kind of like the chapter evolve over the years. How has the chapter grown and with under Cindy's leadership now?
Well, Cindy, first of all, got the presidency a few months ago, and on the eve of this event, and it requires extreme planning and details and everything, and she's handled it well. I've seen the chapter grow over the years I've been here. I think because of social media and a lot of the electronic stuff has improved relations. We have an active website. We were one of the first chapters, I think, that had a website. It's grown as more people come out here to live. Columbus is probably one of the better cities in the Rust Belt area that has grown consistently. Columbus is now the 14th largest city in the United States, and our metro area is growing leaps and bounds. And I think the last statistic we had from the Alumni Association is that there are 2,500 Penn Staters living here. So as more people move here, we try to have more things to do. And it's fun being involved in chapter leadership.
So you all mentioned that this is a big fundraiser for your scholarship. I know the scholarship is something you take great pride in. Tell our listeners a little bit more about that program.
Well, it's hard to raise money in this town for the scholarship, but we somehow managed to do it. We have ways to contribute online. We have fundraisers for it, and we seem to do pretty well. I think our awards last year were $2,500, and I think we issued $1,500 in smaller awards. We take great pride. We've produced very good students from Central Ohio going to Penn State. A lot of them are children of Penn Staters. Some aren't. I think our last scholarship winner was like 4.0. I don't think she could go any higher in her high school ranks. And we've been very impressed with what we are sending to Penn State from Central Ohio. One of the things we do every right around Thon, we send out care packages, and which includes, various snacks and sundry type items. And the students really like that. It makes them feel part of the family, and we're back there wishing them well and having fun at Thon and everything. So like I said, I've seen the chapter grow leaps and bounds since I've been involved with it.
Yeah, you mentioned Thon, you mentioned the fundraiser. I was going to say, beyond football, what will be, your message this weekend to the alumni who you meet, to the Penn Staters who you meet, in terms of, what your chapter is all about and how they can get involved with what you're doing? And, maybe networking is not the right word, but I'd imagine maybe you're going to meet some new Penn Staters this weekend and kind of just welcome them to Columbus for a few days. So what will be kind of like, what's your message when you see Penn Staters this weekend?
Cindy?
Come join us. Well, especially if you're in the area, we do a lot of other things besides, we do watch parties every week this year. Thank goodness. It was so great to get together for watch parties again. We have a winter party that we do in February, which is great because, December is really busy for everybody. So February is right in the middle of winter when it's kind of ugly outside, gray and ugly. So it's fun to get everybody together and have a party. We also do things like canoeing and kayaking trips. We've gotten together with other chapters in Ohio to go to last year, or I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, the hockey game. And other sports events when Penn State comes here. So we have a good time.
Yeah. I want to add to what Cindy said. Our first game of the season with Wisconsin, we held a joint game watch with the University of Wisconsin chapter here, and we collected close to 200 items for the Mid-Ohio Food Bank. And I tell you what, it's a stern dose of reality when I drop that stuff off. You see people that just you realize how good you have it when we try to help in the community that way. So
we do we've done community service projects. And one thing we tried last year, because, COVID was such a downer, we did do an outdoor watch party where we put up a big screen outside in a parking lot, and people drove in their cars, and it was like a drive-in. We watched the Penn State OSU game on the big screen. That was a lot of fun. Yeah. It was so much fun that we're considering maybe doing that on the alternate years when Penn State doesn't come here. Yeah. So we could make it a fundraiser too. We'll see. Hopefully. We're always open to trying some new things though.
You mentioned your website. How can people find out more information about the Central Ohio chapter?
Well, in addition to the website, we've really been doing a lot better with social media this year. So we're on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. So we have pages on all three of those.
Cindy does a great job in maintaining our Facebook page. We always try to recognize a student athlete from the area. We also recognize Ben Gelber.
Yeah.
He has been a meteorologist for Channel 4 here in Columbus for 40 plus years. And one of the things we're probably planning for this year is Ben taking us through the TV station. It's always been a popular event. And Ben knows his weather. Of course, he was educated at the best weather school in the country. So
Absolutely. All right. Last question for both of you. Predictions for Saturday. What do you expect to see in the horseshoe?
well, in my opinion, James Franklin's got to let it all hang out, take chances, go after punts. He's got to create something. I see us winning on a last-second field goal by Jordan Stout, a 50-yarder, 24-21.
All right. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going for a win too. I'm the eternal optimist, and I'm going with that 1-0. That Franklin says all the time, and I'm going to say 30-28.
Excellent. Well, Cindy and Bob, thank you so much for joining us on Football Letter Live, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All
Thanks
right,
for having us.
See you
Hey,
tomorrow.
thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Bob.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Take care. I like that, John. A last-second field goal, Jordan Stout from 50 to seal the win.
Yeah, that was very specific. I mean, it wasn't like, hey, I think we're going to play a good game and pull it out. It was like Bob had details. And so, yeah, we like that attention to detail.
The way our defense is playing, it could be a 3-0 contest.
Hey, the defense is, the defense should not be intimidated by anyone. You know what? If I'm on Penn State's defense, how much are they looking forward to the opportunity? Probably. I mean, they've sat around all week, heard about how great Ohio State's offense is, and they're just sitting there thinking, yeah, all right, just wait till we get there this weekend. And so I think that will be, one of the matchups to look at. We talk about, the battle at the line of scrimmage. Our next guest is well aware of that. Chima Okoli. We've been mentioning Chima's name a few years around the Alumni Association, more than a few, actually. We've said, we've been following him. We've been fans of him for a while. We're glad to have him on. So Chima Okoli, a Letterman offensive lineman from 2007 to 2012. He was a 2-year starter at Penn State in 2011. He was honorable mention All Big Ten. That same year, first team academic All Big Ten, and very much in success with honor fashion, graduated with degrees in advertising, public relations, and media studies. Has been very busy and very successful in his post-Penn State days. Recently was with Penn State Law. Now he founded his own mentoring company. We're going to get into a few of those things. He was also part of a Big Ten advisory commission and is on a board for the Belisario College of Communications here at Penn State. So even though he doesn't work at Penn State Law, very much connected to Penn State. Chima, welcome to the program. Welcome to Football Letter Live. How are you doing tonight, sir?
That intro was incredible. I'm going to try and live up to that, but man, what an intro. Thanks so much, John. Thanks so much, Paul. Happy to be here with everybody and just fired up.
So, Chima, you're joining us from Virginia Beach, right? We have had a pipeline throughout the years of getting football players from Virginia Beach. Tell your story. How'd you become a Nittany Lion?
Yeah, so as you said, I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia, and around the Tidewater area, you have a whole host of great athletes, right? Whether it's Allen Iverson, Percy Harvin, Michael Vick, the list goes on. So initially, I knew I was going to be a Hokie. My brother went there, and Camp Chancellor and Tyrod Taylor, they actually hosted me on my visit.
Right.
So it was absolutely locked in. And then I met Larry Johnson, and he was like nobody that I had ever encountered before. After you get recruited for a while, you get used to the similar type of coach speak, and you can call a spade pretty quickly. And what really did it with Penn State, and people ask me this a lot, is the way that other people spoke about Penn State who had gone there. But it was really people telling me about their uncles and telling me about their cousin who always would tell them these amazing stories. And it was so many people that vouched for this place. It was something I had to investigate myself. And when I did, I noticed that they were the only school, Penn State was the only school that really, really focused on athletics and academics. And that was big to me. So I think I made the right decision. And a couple of years later, here we are.
Yeah, a lot of respect for Virginia Tech. I think that it might have been easy to be seduced by their atmosphere on game day by their team entry, right? One of the best in the country, probably second best,
Sandman, second best. Yeah,
just behind
second best.
Penn State. But I think you made the right choice.
Likewise. And to be honest, I still see a lot of my buddies who are Hokies now, and the platform that Penn State has granted me, the people that I've met, I mean, you know, I can't quantify that, and I can't tell you how much that's worth to me. But it reveals itself every day. I was overseas this summer, and I saw someone with a Penn State shirt on, barely spoke any English, but I kind of let him know. I was like, hey man, you know, that's us, you know. And he's like, he basically in the little bit of English that he knew, basically said, everybody always comes up to me when I wear this shirt. And mind you, this is in Europe, you know what I mean? Very, very far away from central Pennsylvania. And when I was on the road last year, a student told me about their experience landing in Cape Town with their Penn State hat, Cape Town, South Africa, and having multiple people come up to them with similar stories. And I'm all about objective verification, right? What do other people say about this service, this product, this school? And I get up there and it was all confirmed. And, you know, I've been here ever since. They can't get rid of me.
No, that's great. That's such a great story, Chima. We were doing, you know, just kind of a little bit of research, and we came across a video of that Athletics produced during your playing days, and they were interviewing your mom, and she recalled a conversation that shortly after you arrived on campus, you know, you were talking to her and you said, Mom, this is everything that I wanted and more. And to your point that you just said, you know, even early on when you got to campus, how did Penn State deliver on the college experience that you were looking for?
Well, first of all, Coach Paterno was like, well, here's study hall. We were all like, okay, we expected that, but it was here study hall and here are the rules. You know, it was a lot of rules as far as, you know, having a kept appearance when you enter into the football building, waking up every day to check into breakfast, you know, and I'm sure you've had Justin King on and a lot of the great players from my time there, but those rules kicked into place immediately. And you then understood that you were at a place of high esteem that is a part of something much bigger than yourself. At age 18, you know, can I say that I always understood everything and always agree with all those rules? No, right? That wouldn't be true. But as I've grown and as I've, you know, studied how things go around the world, you know, even earlier when we talked about when you're 10 minutes early, then you're on time, right? Those are things that are ingrained into you that you absolutely find to be beneficial as you go on your life and on your journey. So I'm grateful for those lessons, the ones that I learned and the ones that I'm still learning too.
John, you get things on Football Letter Live that you don't get on any other Penn State show. A couple weeks ago, we were talking missile defense with Paul Posluszny. We get objective verification from Chima Okoli. I mean, it's next level kind of stuff here on Football Letter Live.
Kels was talking about missile defense.
Well, that's what he's doing now. That's part of the
so
work.
Does he just jump up and catch him, or how does he do it? Okay, I just wondered. That's how I figured. If Puzz is doing missile defense, he probably just runs him down. But that's awesome.
You know, John, as I think back to the time that Chima played here at Penn State, we have talked about that 2010, 2011, 2012 teams, right? Not only for what they did in terms of staying and recommitting to Penn State after everything that happened, but when you look at those players, that might have been one of the smartest Penn State football teams to ever compete, right? We had Steph Wisniewski was on those teams. John Urschel was on those teams. That ESQ behind Chima Okoli's name stands for something, right? I mean, that means something behind your name there. Chima, talk a little bit about the guys you played with and some of your favorite memories from being a football player here.
Yeah, and you spoke about earlier how I was able to, you know, land on Penn State. It's because I looked around and that era of 10, 11, 12, you know, just because of certain things, I think that we're a bit overshadowed, right? So there's a ton of Kevin Cousins is an orthopedic surgeon. Mark Rubin is a brilliant financial professional, beat Mike Phelps in a race. Let me give you some more hidden gems as well. Steph Wisniewski, my very first camp roommate, is one of the most humble, hardworking, best football players and people that I've ever bumped up against. John Urschel was literally someone who would help you do your math homework or tutor you while doing his own very, very high level and complex stuff just because, oh yeah, Chima, this is easy for me, right? And so I always take pride in what people from, especially my class, my cohort, what we do after we left, right? To become an orthopedic surgeon like Kevin Cousins in New York City, right? Or to win in Austin, to win an Emmy like Austin Hinton. There's so many great accomplishments, and I do take a lot of pride in that. And that let me know that, hey, we're here to play football. We're here to be tough, to be disciplined, to be sound. But that also let me know that it wasn't just lip service to say that we care about education and we're going to promote those things. And that to me was the difference. And that to me is the continued quality that Penn State demonstrates time and time again.
Well, you talk about tough, you talk about being disciplined. That obviously happened on the field for you during your playing days. We were talking before we went live. You've got 2 wins in the Horseshoe as a player. What is it like to play in the Horseshoe? And what is it going to have to take Saturday for this Penn State team to win?
Yeah, so the first one, I got to give up to the 08 guys like we had discussed earlier. Mark Rubin made the tackle. T Sales, little pop. My old roommate Navarro Bowman, one of the fastest human beings I've ever seen. He jumps on the ball, and I'm looking at Terrell Pryor and Beanie Wells and all those guys, and I'm like, you guys really messed up, didn't you? You could hear a pin drop. It's silent, right? The second time, it's 2011, and it's myself, Deontay Pinnell, and we run an inside zone, and Stephon Green shoots out, out the backside gap, and he's gone. So I always say like this: if that would happen at Beaver Stadium, everyone is running towards you and like, come on, score. Like the crowd is almost willing you in, right? Now imagine the exact opposite with, let's say, less friendly expressions greeting you on your way to the end zone. But to me, that's what made it that much sweeter. Somebody asked me about my favorite game. It would definitely, that's tied up there. And also Illinois with that last second field goal. I think that's a game where if you know your history, I feel like I want to bring out a pipe and gather around. If you know your history, that's an awesome game as well with that last second field goal. My mother's favorite game as well. So shout out to my mother.
Amazing stories. Those 2 wins in the shoe. There aren't too many Penn Staters who could say they've gone to Columbus twice and left with victories. 2 very different games. The 2008 team was among the best in Penn State history, Big Ten champions. The 2011 team went there under very different circumstances and was able to get a win in the shoe. I appreciate you talking about those experiences there. We want to shift gears a little bit here because we talked last night. We had a webinar with Sandy Barber and our basketball coach, our women's basketball coach, talking about name, image, and likeness. And that's something that you've studied and have a real good perspective on. If you were a current student athlete, what would your approach be to name, image, and likeness? And what would your priorities be?
Right. So name, image, and likeness is something that was always, it was always near and dear to me. I always believe that at the end of the day, there should be some type of fair system to compensate student athletes, right? And I think when people say, oh, well, that's college athletes getting paid, right? And that's a bit of oversimplification. It's simply opening up student athletes to the free market like everyone else, right? Let's say you're a music student and you produce an original song or original soundtrack. Well, you could sell that, right? If you're an engineer and you produce a formula, you can sell that as well. So it's just the taking away of the restrictions that were placed on student athletes. But the truth is, if we're starting with NIL, the vast majority of student athletes, you're not going to strike it rich. It's not going to be the thing that makes you a millionaire 99% of the time. There's going to be those cases, and I encourage everybody to seek that out. But I would say that they need to be pursue with an educated eye, right? Be understanding that I compare it to you're getting on the highway, right? So you can get on the highway, but there's certain speeds you have to go through. You have to make sure that you're properly licensed. You have to wear a seatbelt, because I always explain to them, and I spent the last 2 years interacting with universities and student athletes around this topic, that you need to equip yourself to become a business. And for the first time, that can trip very, very seasoned and experienced people up, talk less of a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old who might have absolutely no experience going to an attorney to form an LLC so that they don't commingle their funds, right? That's something that a lot of adults might not know, right? So what we do at Marathon Mentors is we break things down like contract education, tax basics, right? We don't say financial literacy because the truth is you're biting off a lot to make someone financially literate in a 6-7 week course, but basic finance and practical things about having a business plan, right? Talking to an attorney when you want to negotiate. These are first time experiences for many people. Talk less of student athletes, and we're there to bridge that gap. And I use my experience as a student athlete and also as an attorney to go ahead and make that work. And it's my passion project, and I've been plugging away at it, and I'm happy to be in the middle of something new and something dynamic.
Chima, even though name, image, and likeness wasn't instituted or around when you were playing, and for many of your teammates, like based on the stories that you're telling, you graduated very much prepared to kind of, recognize, the life skills that you would need to beyond Penn State, beyond playing football. Were there life lessons that you learned at Penn State that you're still using on a daily basis with your company and with everything that you're involved in?
Yeah, just to kind of go back to me and my teammates, there were times where we had to put $7.53 together collectively to get pizza. You know what I mean? So we didn't have it, right? We didn't have money that was, it would be me, Derek Moy, Quinn Barham, and we'd go to the hub when we wanted to splurge on fine dining, Panda Express. But you could only do that once or twice a month because you'd run out of, again, it's discipline, right? So I really just feel like while we were prepared for it, we didn't think it was going to happen, right? We saw certain. I remember Reggie Bush, right? That incident happened when I was coming up. I've done in the education I produce. I teach the student athletes about Jeremy Bloom, which is a case that not a lot of people know about. But as I said, as a long-suffering Eagles fan, I could tell you that when we got him, I was like, this guy from Colorado is an amazing punt returner. But imagine telling the NCAA, like, I'm also an Olympian. That means on the planet Earth, I'm one of the top 10 people to be able to do this. The NCAA said, hey, that's great and everything, but you're not allowed to, pursue that. Now imagine telling a young person that, nowadays we're looking to see how we can make things just more equitable. And again, it's encouraging in my view, in what we teach, is it's encouraging student athletes to equip themselves with a good or a service that is going to be beneficial, that the market will place a value on, right? There's no handouts in this. So I think with name, image, and likeness, a lot of people get ahead of themselves to look at the extreme outliers of XYZ student athletes sign with Pepsi or XYZ student athletes sign with Nike. Well, when I'm working with Penn State student athletes, I say, hey, why don't we check out Blue Knob Auto in Altoona, right? Let's start local and start basic so you understand what it is to run a business and to evaluate contracts before you bite off more than you can chew. So in a nutshell, we start with education and we work our way out from there. I don't know if that was responsive to your question, John, but
it's all good, Chima.
All right.
No, it's all interesting, right? What Reggie Bush did during his time is now legal. Right. And I think Curtis Enos and Joe Jaravicius having to miss a bowl game because of some of the things that they did in their time. It's now legal. It's interesting how things have changed. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Hey, Paul, can I say one thing real quick? I'm sorry.
Sure.
My favorite rule was if you're on a recruiting visit, you can get the bagel, but if they give you cream cheese, that's a violation, right? You get what I mean? And anyone watching, first of all, shout out to Nittany Nation. You guys are incredible. You all are the reason why a young person from Virginia Beach, Virginia, very far away from central Pennsylvania, goes away from what we're native to, right? And heads up there. So want to shout out to all the alums of all classes. But yes, Paul, that's an example of the rules that are in place. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. The minute you put cream cheese on a student athlete's bagel, that's an impermissible extra benefit, right? And they can pull your scholarship. Does that seem real? Does that seem feasible. So those are the set of rules we're dealing with to paint the picture for everybody.
Yeah, and Sandy gave a great example last night. She said we could have student athletes work a Penn State camp, but they can't work their own camp, right? They can't sponsor their own camp. This is all just the tip of the iceberg, though. I think name, image, and likeness, and allowing student athletes to strike these deals with companies and with individuals in violation or kind of in partnership. I see violation. My father's throwing me off here. But I think athlete compensation is going to be something that's coming down the pipeline sometime soon, right? We saw what Northwestern tried to do with student athletes unionizing. There's a court case now working its way through district courts where a number of student athletes have class action suit to be able to get compensation for the sports that they are playing.
Yes, and at the end of the day, I feel like it's the American model. At the end of the day, if you have something that produces, let's say you're something that produces $100 million a season, yet the actual human beings that are working to, garner a large part of that have somehow been blocked from the fruit of their labor to a certain degree. And at the end of the day, this country is about opportunity, and this country is about allowing everybody. If you work, you should be able to, hunt and bring home those resources, not only to help yourself out, but I played with a lot of people who came from tougher economic situations. So a lot of the Pell Grant, shout out to guys like Fran Ganner who would lead us through that type of thing. But the Pell Grant would be helpful not only for people but their families as well. So the economic gap between a lot of student athletes and a lot of other people when it comes to college sports is something that we can hopefully close and address, because at the end of the day, if something makes an exorbitant sum of money, the American way is to compensate the people who are responsible for that. And I believe that's the equitable way. That's the fair way. Now, is it going to be easy? Is it going to be simple? No. But I believe in our college systems, and I believe in the institutions in place to figure out those rules to make a sensible conclusion going forward for all sides and all parties.
I mean, just to kind of like maybe wrap up the conversation on name, image, and likeness, Chima, we've talked, how it impacts the student athletes, and but our fans are also been talking a lot about it. And you've said, there might be a misperception out there, and hopefully things become clear as we go along. From a fan's perspective, maybe what's important for them to understand about name, image, likeness that, maybe it's a little murky right now.
Right. Great question, John. I always use the example of, so just imagine now the gates are lifted on the, it's a Greyhound track, it's a racetrack, whatever it is. That's all it is, right? But if your typical student athlete says, I just want to go my 4 years and my 5 years, and I don't want to mess with any of that, which a large number of them will do, then they're not gonna have to worry about it. All this is allowing. I always use the example. For example, I played with Tim Tebow's in my class when he's at the University of Florida. I mean, if you just look at the snapshot moments that he has given that university that they can now use in perpetuity, talk less of 2 national championships and 1 Heisman Trophy. We were talking about Reggie Bush, and they estimated that he lost about $10 million not being able to, be a part of the Heisman Trust. It's a select fraternity. We all see the commercials. You know what I mean? It's a small group of people that have gotten that high honor. So when you take that away, you really damage the person that was responsible for a huge amount of that school success economically. So I would just ask the fans to be understanding of the economics that are involved in college football, and be realistic with themselves that a lot of student athletes are not going to strike it rich. This is not bags of cash given to student athletes. However, this is simply allowing them to participate in the free market economy like anyone else.
So Chima, we talk a lot about success with honor on Football Letter Live, right? It's more than just a saying. It's the stories like yours that really bring success with honor to life. I know if Coach Paterno were here, he'd be so proud of that Esquire behind your name there, right? Or at least Coach Paterno's dad would be proud of it, because he always wanted him to be a lawyer.
Yeah. He'd probably be yelling at me though. He probably would be screeching about a block that I could have got wider on. So yeah, but after that, I'm sure he'd be proud once he corrected my technique.
How about
You know.
share your favorite Coach Paterno story?
Oh man, oh gosh, there's so many. Okay, so it's I actually forget which bowl game it was, but Coach is in the elevator with us, and this elevator, it's a bowl game, so it's a bunch of gentlemen my size, and Coach Paterno is maybe 5'9", 140 pounds, 150 pounds, at soaking wet, as they say. And the elevator, it's the defensive line, offensive line, Coach Turner in the middle, right? So if you were looking at a cross section, you couldn't see the man. The elevator gets caught and it stops for a good 45 minutes, but you could imagine, right? So I'm 6'5". Now imagine, like, you've seen the terracotta soldiers, right? Kind of right in that, not to get too historical on you, but Coach Paterno's in there and he goes, press the button for the fire alarm, communicate, right? So we press it, but they can't hear him through us or over us, but we can't move, right? So everyone makes like this kind of like awkward person on person pressed upon each other lineman sandwich so that Coach Paterno can say, and I give you a Paterno impression, but I'll spare everyone that. But long story short, we basically have to like get him all the way in front of the mic for him to yell, "It's the head coach on here. Get me off this thing right now." You know what I'm saying? So that was a pretty good moment. They eventually came and got us out of there, and it was just one thing that I'll go see Quinn Barham he works at Ohio State now. Long story, but we'll talk about that and we'll laugh, man. So lots of good stories for Coach Paterno there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I had to like mute myself because I didn't want my laughing to get in the way.
John, if you were there, it's exactly what you thought it would. It's exactly what you thought. I think it is. Awesome.
Hey, but sticking with this, we know that success with honor is important to you, obviously, for very, personal and meaningful reasons. What does success with honor mean to you?
Success with honor was always getting the most out of yourself. I think that when you try and label success as something you attain or a dollar, trust me, like I have aspirations and I have ambitions, but to me, it's saying, well, you know what? When I get the most out of myself, that is honoring my process, and that's honoring where I am, and that's honoring the sacrifices of people, because we all get where we are with a little bit of help in some capacity, right? So to me, you can get success by working 90% as hard, right? Or maybe by doing 9 out of 10 things correctly. You can still win that way. But we were always taught in my era, success with honor was doing it the right way. Nobody is looking, going the extra mile, looking out for one another. And when you're lying down on the field exhausted, you gave it your all. You know that you looked out for your people. So to me, that's what success with honor embodies. And it's a continuing process. It's not a milestone. It's not somewhere to get and land and rest. It's a continuing process of refinement.
So I want to go back to your professional career. You were back at Penn State as the Associate Director for Admissions at Penn State Law from 2019 and 2020. Then you founded your own company, Marathon Mentors. What was it that motivated you to start the mentorship and to start this company that you have called earlier your passion project?
You know what, Paul? It was a combination of a couple of things, but I just realized that the future of work is changing. The future of work is changing, and the advent of being able to say, look, I've done this, let me pass on the practical skills to you. I think that's huge. And I think that I realized that I've been through enough places, and I've been through the academic route, I've been through the real life route. I could relate to student athletes on a different level. And I felt like that was going to be the best way to get the most out of my skills. And going out on my own, it's going to be scary at first. Imagine trying to tell your parents that, I'm going to quit my job to, they're like, I always say, it was basically like I told them that I was going to move to California and become a singer-songwriter, drop an album. You know what I mean? It's like, what? You know what I'm saying? But They were encouraging me. They supported me. And the truth is, I'm all about people and I'm all about genuine connections. So going out on my own, being able to kind of retap into what has made me who I am, student athletes in that type of world, NIL was the perfect vehicle. And Marathon Mentors, we're bridging that gap, right? Like I said, your average student, they've never opened up a business account. They have no idea what any of that stuff is. They don't want to talk to lawyers because I get it. Who wants to talk to us, right? I totally understand. But if you take the information and you break it down in tangible, practical ways that they can apply, they'll do that. More importantly, you have to earn their respect. When you walk into a locker room, we don't care who you are. There's been so many times where the person would come in with this title, and after he left, everybody kind of just broke out laughing. You have to earn their respect and their trust. And that's what we do as well, because it's not just we're educating you in the book sense, but we're giving you real life advice from what we've done and what we've seen, and we're passing that experience back on down.
All right, Chima, we'll wrap up because you just talked about, trust and respect and has to be earned in the locker room. Let's say you're in the locker room on Saturday, you've won in the horseshoe, you know what it takes. What are you telling your teammates around you in the locker room as you're about to take the field Saturday night?
All right, one more story because I like everybody here. Okay, we're in the locker room at Beaver Stadium, and people go out at different times, different groups, and all of a sudden I hear this very loud, "Don't bark if you're not a brother," and I'm like, that's not on game day. You're tuned in, you could hear a pin drop, and all of a sudden LeVar's in our locker room. LeVar Arrington, you might have heard of him, played at Penn State before. He got in somehow, right? He didn't come in with us. And he's just letting everybody know, don't talk about it if you're not going to bring it today, right? This is your chance to seize your own narrative. This is your chance, seniors, to make it about what you gained and not what you lost. Ohio State, this is it, right? This is the stage where you rise to the occasion. And that would be basically the message, I would say, starting our fundamentals. Every single football game offensively, we start out with a script of about 7 or 8 plays. Run those. Don't turn the ball over. As we were talking about early, fellas, don't make any silly plays to excite the place, right? For example, you get a sack fumble at Beaver, your parents can hear you back in Virginia. That's how loud it gets. You don't want to do that with us because we could smell it. We smell the blood in the water. They're the same. They have a bunch of athletes. They're going to be flying around. We need to be fundamentally sound. And the truth is, don't be scared to play simple football. I'm a big soccer fan as well. And when you're getting boat raced in soccer, the midfield leader says, give me the ball. I'm going to just put my foot on it, right? Because that gives people a chance to settle down and we can start to work through our progressions. But you have to beat the atmosphere first. Then you focus on the team.
Well, Chima, thanks for joining us on Football Ladder.
Thanks so much for having me. We are
Penn State. Appreciate you, Chima. Thank you.
That's the pep talk, John. That's what they need to hear, right? Seniors, go write your story.
Yeah, I'm just imagining like you're in, you're the Beaver Stadium locker room, you're getting ready to, go off for kickoff, and then LeVar just comes in and starts hyping you up out of nowhere. I mean, I was gonna tell him, look, we were so much looking forward to having Chima on tonight. He did not disappoint. Hearing those stories was just, and again, like only players can tell those stories. Only players know what it takes to rise to the level of a D1 athlete to make it to Penn State football. And so, when you get there, you recognize and realize that it's meaningful. And that Letterman bond is something special, and we love hearing about it every week.
Well, speaking of guys that rise to the occasion, Vincent Langaro, our producer, is backstage. We're going to bring him out and talk about what's going on the Football Letter blog.
How you doing, Paul? How you doing, John?
We're great.
So what's going on the Football Letter blog? I'm just caught off guard. That was such a good interview. I'm struggling for thoughts now. Try to keep the program going. So John had a great story today on the blog about Journey Brown, kind of him staying involved with the program, even though he's had to retire, obviously, as we all know, from a medical issue. So John's got a story on that. Looking back at Penn Staters in the NFL, another great week for Penn Staters. Blake Gillikin is killing it with the Saints right now. Probably one of the better punters in the league. And people say, well, punting, that's not fun. But, he could be in line for a Pro Bowl appearance this year if he keeps it up. So a lot of good stuff on the blog this week, as always. And, of course, I'll drop the link to John's story on Journey. That's a great story. And obviously we wish Journey the best moving forward and whatnot. So I would encourage everyone to go check that out.
Sticking with the Saints there for a second, Juwan Johnson has carved out a nice spot for him as well. A guy like, I think of Nick Scott, I think of Juwan Johnson. Nick was drafted. Juwan had to make it as a free agent, but has changed positions and has really found a spot for him now on the Saints, which are contenders.
Yeah, he has in a different position, a tight end. I mean, he's always been a big guy for a wide receiver, but to be a tight end nowadays, you need to just bulk up a little bit and you can do it. And he certainly, had some special games so far this season, and they're right there in the mix with the Buccaneers in a big game this week for them.
If you want just a couple minutes of just pure joy and laughing, find Juwan Johnson on social media. Juwan and Chan, his wife Chan, have this great social media rapport with each other that is hysterical. So go find them on Instagram, or if you're on TikTok, go find them on TikTok. They are making people smile all over the country. Both Penn Staters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obsessed with TikTok, so I know all about them, and yeah, they're fantastic. Great content that they put out, and I'm happy for Juwan. I know he transferred to Oregon his last year, but he always seemed like a decent guy, and I'm happy for him, having success in the NFL and TikTok fame. Who doesn't love that?
Absolutely. Well, having some success on other fields as well, Vince. We watched the men's soccer game the other night. Chima described it, right? Our men's soccer team was getting boat raced, right? They were down 2-0 in the first half, came back, scored 3 unanswered goals. Now tied for first place with Indiana in the Big Ten, which is saying a lot because Indiana is the class of NCAA soccer year in and year out. But women's soccer starts Sunday with their Big Ten tournament, headed out to Ann Arbor to compete against Michigan. But a lot of great things going on with Penn State athletics and Penn State athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. A thrilling win for men's soccer. Yeah, like you mentioned, down 2-0 and come back to win 3-2 it doesn't happen often in soccer. That's not a sport of tremendous comebacks very often. And I know women's soccer has had their struggles this year, but I'm never going to count out an Erica Downback coach team. They could easily go on a run and win the Big Ten tournament. And then, shout out to the women's volleyball team too. They got a win, I think last weekend at Minnesota, who was highly ranked, and then took Wisconsin to 5 sets. So they're right in the mix of it too in the Big Ten. Big Ten volleyball. There's it feels like every team is ranked in the top 25. It's the same as wrestling. It's a grind of a schedule. So they're right in the mix of it too.
Exactly. And speaking of shout outs, let's give a shout out to Steven Netarosik. Steven, who I thought was snubbed from the men's Olympic gymnastics team this year, has turned around and become a world champion on the pommel horse. And so Steven Netarosik, Penn State grad, now world champion, 2021 world champion on the pommel horse in gymnastics.
Yeah, it's always great to see Penn Staters winning world championships, no matter the sport. Doesn't matter the sport. It's always special.
Absolutely. John, final thoughts as we wrap up tonight.
Go State, beat the Buckeyes.
Absolutely. Well, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. Vince, let's get some of the there we go. Some of the pictures of the pets we promised you for weeks now, and here they are. If you want to tune in to the name, image, and likeness webinar that we did last night with Sandy Barber, we can drop that link in the chat here or in the comments on Facebook and on YouTube. You can watch that and get up to date on what's going on with name, image, and likeness. If you want to read really great coverage of Penn State football, you can take advantage of our partnership with the PA Media Group, which publishes Penn Live, we are offering a joint membership and subscription to Penn Live. You can check out that information. Current members who sign up will have their membership extended. If you're not a member, you get a membership in the Alumni Association along with your subscription to Penn Live. And so Vince can drop the information about that as well. Saturday, look at your inbox. We'll have this in addition to other great content on your Saturday football letter. The Monday football letter will come out, hopefully reporting a big victory where we shocked the world in Columbus and come home 1-0 on Saturday from the Horseshoe. Get all the great content that Vince was talking about on the Football Letter blogs. Find that at thefootballletter.com and follow us on Twitter at PSUFBletter. Again, that's on Twitter at PSUFBletter. John, great show. What do we have coming up next week?
Next week, one of my favorite lettermen, because I was in school when he was playing, Shafi Fields, is going to be on the program next week. We actually talked with him a few years ago about the 1999 game against Arizona, and he had such great perspective. We'll have him on the show next week. And then we're also going to highlight the Central Maryland and the Metro Washington, D.C. chapters as we head to College Park next week to take on Maryland.
Thanks again to everybody who tuned in. Thanks for all you do for the university, for the glory, and for the future. We are
Penn State.
Okay.